This is the live podcast with Manuel, living in full expression. Welcome to the live podcast with me, your host Manuel. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the gap that's keeping you stuck. You know what you should do. You've done the research, you've made the plans, you've even told a few people about it, but you're not doing it. And if I'm being honest, you probably haven't even been doing it for months or even years. Here's the truth. It's not because you don't have the knowledge. It's not because you don't have the time. It's not even because you don't have the resources. You're stuck because of courage. And I want to tell you, you're not alone. That gap, the space between knowing what you should be doing and then doing it, that's what we're diving in today, because that's one thing that keeps most smart people from moving forward. So if you're ready, let's get started. Recently, I coached a client who had walked through a season most people never would have recovered from fully, and he had faced a real life-shaping difficulty, the kind that tests your identity, your faith, your resilience, and somehow he made it through. And he came out stronger, clever, and wiser. And then along the way, he learned things that you can find in books. He discovered patterns, mistakes to avoid, and a roadmap out of the darkness. And he knows without a doubt that there are countless people out there facing the exact struggle he once faced. People who are desperate for clarity, people who need someone who truly understands, people who would benefit deeply from what he knows. He has the experience, he has the insight, he has the heart to help, he even has a clear sense of how he could guide other people. And yet, he's been preparing to start for months, trying to refine his idea, tweak plans, waiting for the perfect moment to begin. As he spoke, it became clearer. He wasn't stuck because he lacked knowledge or direction. He was stuck because starting could mean stepping fully into visibility. It could mean saying, "This is my story and this is how I can help." And owning his transformation publicly felt far from frightening than staying in the safety of planning. So first, let me address what you probably will be thinking right now. You might be saying, just like the guy, I'm not afraid. I'm just being strategic. I'm waiting for the right time. But here's the truth. Strategic waiting and fear-based waiting look identical from the outside, but they feel completely different on the inside. Here are 3 realities about courage I want you to know. Number 1. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. Brave people feel the same fear you do as well. They just don't let it make the decision. The feeling doesn't go away. You just stop negotiating with it. And number 2 is that preparation has a point of diminishing returns. There's a sweet spot where more preparation actually makes you more afraid, not less, because now you have more to lose, more invested, and more at stake. And number 3 is that the cost of waiting isn't natural. Every day you don't act, you are not staying in the same place. You are reinforcing the natural pathway that says, "I'm the kind of person who doesn't follow through." You are training yourself to stay stuck. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. Not easier, but harder. And let me tell you what you are really afraid of. Not the fear you admit, actually, the one that you are really afraid of. Because fear of failure is too vague, too safe, and too easy to say. And here are those fears I want to point out to you. Fear number 1, the fear of being seen as a fraud. You're worried that once you put yourself out there, people realize you're not as good as you pretended to be. They will see through you. They will know that you don't belong. And this is an imposter syndrome. But here's what nobody tells you. Imposter syndrome doesn't mean you're afraid or you're a fraud. It means you're attempting something that matters. The only people who never feels like imposters are people playing so small that there's nothing to expose about. Everyone successful you admire has felt this. They did it anyway. And fear number 2 is the fear of losing your potential. Right now in your head, you could be amazing. You could be widely successful. You could change everything. But the moment you actually try, you risk finding out you're just good or worse, average. And as long as you don't try, you get to keep the fantasy of your unlimited potential. The moment you try, reality might be disappointing. But here's the truth. Unrealized potential is worthless. Better to be good at something real than potentially great at something imaginary. And here's the third fear, the fear of outgrowing your current identity. This is the one nobody talks about. You are afraid that if you succeed, you will become someone different, someone your current friends don't relate to, someone your family don't recognize. You are afraid of leaving people behind. You are afraid of being the one who changed. You are afraid success could cost you belonging. But here is the truth. The right people will celebrate your growth. The wrong people resent it. This fear is actually the intuition telling you who needs to stay and who needs to go. So let's get specific. Where are you playing small right now? Let's have a little courage assessment to see where you are playing small. Let's look at your career. Are you staying in a job you've outgrown because it's comfortable? Are you turning down opportunities because you don't feel ready? Are you hiding your ideas in meetings because you're afraid they would sound stupid? Let's look at your business. Are you endlessly preparing to launch instead of launching imperfectly? Are you undercharging because asking for what you're worth feels scary? Are you avoiding sales conversations because rejection feels too personal to you? Let's talk about your creativity. Do you have a book, a podcast, a project you've been working on for years? Are you consuming endless content about how to do a thing instead of doing the thing itself? Are you waiting for permission, validation, or the right time that never comes? What about your relationships? Are you staying in a relationship that no longer serves you because living feels scary? Or are you not having difficult conversation because you are avoiding conflict? Or probably you are saying yes when you mean no because disappointing people terrifies you. Here's how you know if it's a courage issue that you're having. I want you to ask yourself, if I knew I couldn't fail, would I do this? And if the answer is yes, you don't have a strategy problem, you have a courage problem. Let me give you the courage versus readiness test that you can do right now. You are ready when you have the core skills, you have a clear next step, you're learning as you go. And then you are stalling when you're learning the same thing over and over. You're endlessly researching, you're waiting for a feeling that never comes. And here's the truth. You will never feel ready. Readiness is a feeling that comes after you act, not before. So confidence is a result of action, not prerequisite for it. So I'm going to give you a 4-week courage building protocol. And I want you to know that courage is a muscle. You don't build it by thinking about it. You build it by using it. And here's how you're going to do that. In week 1, you're going to do a micro courage practice. Here, you're going to start small, build the neural pathway before the big leap. And here's the action you need to do. Do one thing that scares you daily, not life-changing things, just uncomfortable things. For example, speak up in a meeting, post something vulnerable on social media, ask for what you want instead of hinting, say no to something you would normally say yes to. Have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, and here's the rule for you. It must make your heart beat faster. If it doesn't, it's not building courage. It's building comfort. So track it at the end of the day by writing, today I was brave when you write what you did. And here's why this strategy works. You are teaching your nervous system that discomfort doesn't equal danger. Each small act rewires your relationship with fear. And then in week 2, you want to name your real fear. Stop hiding behind the fear of failure. Get specific. And here's the action you can take. And I want you to complete this sentence. You want to say, I'm afraid that if I do this, people will think you fill in the blank. I'm afraid that if I fail, it will mean you fill in the blank. I'm afraid that if I succeed, I will have to, you fill in the blank. The person I'm most afraid of disappointing is, you fill in the blank. And lastly, you might say, the identity I'm afraid of losing is, you can write that. Then you have a reality test for each of them by asking this question. Is this fear based on evidence or assumptions? What's the actual worst case scenario that could happen if I take these steps? If the worst happened, would I survive it and what could I do about it? And lastly, what's the cost of letting this fear run my life for another year? And here's why this step works. Because vague fear feels enormous, but when you're specific, it can be addressed. Once you name it, it loses its power. Week 3 is your imperfect action week. In this week, you do the things you've been avoiding imperfectly, publicly, irreversibly. In your action, choose one courageous action that would move you forward. For example, you can launch the thing you've been perfecting, have the conversation you've been rehearsing, apply for the opportunity you feel unqualified for, share the work you've been hiding, and ask for the thing you want. And here are some non-negotiable rules you can adopt to help you. You can set a deadline, maybe end of 3 weeks. You can tell someone your deadlines, and this will breed accountability for you. And you do it even if you're terrified. Do it before you feel ready. Do it imperfectly. And here's why this works perfectly for you. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence enables more action. But you have to act first. The feeling follows. And in week 4, this becomes your integration and expansion phase. You have done the scary thing. Now we process and build on it. And here are some action steps you can take. Document what actually happened versus what you feared would happen. List what you learned about yourself and list what you learned about courage and identify your next courageous move. Then you commit. You tell yourself, I will do this by this specific date. And then you can create a courage mantra for yourself. One sentence that reminds you who you are becoming. For example, you could say, I do hard things. I act before I feel ready. I rather try and fail than wonder what if. Courage is my competitive advantage. And here is why this works. You're building identity, not just completing tasks. You're becoming someone who acts despite fear. And with that identity, change becomes permanent for you. Here are some courage mistakes you need to avoid. Mistake number 1, waiting for the fear to go away before acting. It doesn't go away. You act with the fear, not after it leaves. The fear is coming with you. Mistake number 2, confusing courage with recklessness. Courage is calculated risk with something meaningful at stake, while recklessness is stupid risk with no upside. You must know the difference. Mistake number 3, only taking action when you feel motivated. I want you to know that motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. Courage is a decision. Decide, then act. The motivation follows. Mistake number 4, letting one failure mean something about your identity. You failed at a thing. That doesn't mean you are a failure. You need to separate the action from the worth, and this you must do always. Mistake number 5, going it alone. Courage is easier in a community. Tell people what you're doing. Ask for accountability. Let others cheer you on. Solo heroism is exhausting and unnecessary. So be in a community where you can be encouraged. Don't do it alone. And here are your action exercises for this episode. This week, identify one thing you've been avoiding because it scares you. Number 2, complete the courage versus readiness test honestly. Number 3, do one micro courage action daily and track it. Number 4, tell one person, I'm working on building courage around. You mentioned the specific thing that you're working on. Number 5, set a deadline for your week 3 action, even if it terrifies you. And then in the next 30 days, you want to complete the full 4-week protocol. You want to take the imperfect action you've been avoiding in your week 3. You want to document before and after what changed when you acted. You want to identify your next courage move and calendar it. And then number 5, you want to share your story. Your courage gives others permission as well. And I want you to remember this. You always know what you need to do. The thing that scares you when you started listening to this episode, that's your answer. That's your next move. You don't need more information. You don't need more preparation. You don't need a sign from the universe. You need to decide. And then you need to act. And in closing, here's what I want you to know. You're smart. You're capable. You have something valuable to offer the world. But none of that matters if you're too afraid to show up. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't knowledge, it's courage. And here's the good news. Courage isn't a personality trait you're born with or without it. It's a skill you build through practice. Every person you admire who is doing big or scary things, they feel the same fear you do. They don't let it make their decisions. They act anyway. They launch anyway. They speak up anyway. They take the leap anyway. And then, only then, do they feel brave. You're not going to feel ready You're not going to feel confident. You're not going to feel brave before you act. But I promise you, you will feel all this after you've acted. Start this week. Start with something small. Build the muscle. Then take the leap you've been avoiding, because the world doesn't need another smart person sitting on the sidelines, paralyzed by fear. The world needs you in the arena, imperfect, scared, but showing up anyway. That's the courage. This has been the Live Podcast with me, your host, Manuel. And until I see you in the next episode, keep living in full expression.